Three, two, one. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Nine Hole Podcast. I'm here live on the No Filter Network. This is an extremely special episode brought to you by the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm extremely fortunate here to have an MLB Hall of Famer here talk about his story, talk about the trials and tribulations on, just the different ways of success. Overcoming obstacles, man, talking about kind of the involvement in the recruiting space, scouting, perfect game, all that stuff. Trevor Hoffman, how are you doing, man? Thank you so much for being here.
Ian, I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to chat with you today. I think we have a little bit more in common than you think. I mean, I was a 9-hole hitter, and I didn't get much top of the lineup opportunities. So, and in fact, it ended up turning into a pitching career. So it tells you a little bit about my prowess as a hitter. But I'm looking forward to chatting with you.
I love it. So, I mean, I'd love to dive into that. That's first and foremost. But first, I'd like to, kind of lead off with some of the stats just to set the table a little bit. So, you were elected to the Hall of Fame in 2018. It's amazing. 18-year MLB career, 15 with the Padres, right? So I wanted to talk a little bit in this recording about maybe what it takes, not just to get there, but to stay there. Going to ask you a little bit about that, maybe some separating type stuff. You were the first player to reach 500 and 600 saves. That's absolutely incredible. The all-time saves leader from 2006 to 2011. And you were an 11th round draft pick, drafted as a shortstop out of the University of Arizona. That's absolutely incredible. I'd love to hear a whole lot about your story. Like I said, the separators, playing the game the right way, going about your business the right way, the perfect game involvement, and just kind of, man, pick your brain on some stuff. This is the 9-Hole Podcast. Would love to provide just great info to the next generation of 9-hole hitters. Trevor, what do you say, man? Is that cool?
Sounds great. I'm looking forward to getting all that.
I love it, man. So just if you could run me through a little bit about how you got to where you're at. You're a Hall of Fame closer, man. But I'm reading here you're a 150-pound shortstop your junior year of high school, or excuse me, college at Arizona, man. How did this all work out?
So I think that's kind of the big hook here is that, you're 2018 Hall of Fame inductee, and everyone has a path. And my path was one that I think might resonate with a lot of common baseball players that are out there. I was a undersized through high school, through junior college. Not for anything I did or didn't do. It's just that's part of the hand I was dealt. My older brothers were both much bigger and stronger when they were at that stage in life, and I just kind of felt like that was normal. This is what I had to work with, and I wasn't going to become a victim because of it. You're just going to kind of keep working hard and put your nose to the grindstone and love the game and kind of constantly trying to evolve. And drafted as an infielder, we'll get down the road later as a pitcher, but I just love the game. I had the ability to have parents that just gave us opportunities. They didn't push us into anything. They wanted to expose us to the arts, the music, athletics, school, all of it, without any pressure, other than make sure you get your grades done and for sure school, and don't be a problem at school. But all the other stuff is like find your way, and it just kind of kept school was the opportunity that kept opening doors. I wasn't drafted until my senior year in college, and so there was no opportunities out of high school. Go get some more schooling done with the JC, as I mentioned. It turned into an opportunity in Tucson with the University of Arizona, and Coach Kindle continued to get your schooling done. And that was kind of plan B, but it would have been plan A had, the Reds not come and knocked on the door and said, hey, we want to give you an opportunity. And so I know that there's a lot of people out there and kids that are, they're hoping that they get an opportunity to play professional baseball. And if it doesn't happen, man, the more schooling you can get under your belt, the opportunities that will open up, and have a degree, and the things you learn and the people you meet is huge. So, that's kind of a little synopsis of, Trevor Hoffman back in the 80s.
I love that, man. That fires me up. I feel like I was a walk-on in college, right? So I had the 9-hole kind of mindset my whole career, amateur going into pros, all that stuff, man. So the grades were kind of a pivotal part. I was able to walk on, like I was able to get into school in order to walk on. That's something that, I mean, when you're talking about opportunity, kind of the landscape of like recruiting nowadays with the portal, they're limiting rounds in the drafts, right? The rules are ever changing, man. It's getting a little bit more cutthroat. So, the grades are just something that maybe you can get in front of, and it's not going to hinder your opportunity, right? Gives you way more opportunity.
Honestly, I think what it does, it frees up kids that, I get coming out of high school and that opportunity is there. But, if you have a safety net, it frees you up to go play the game without any shackles on you, really. There's a lot of pressure to perform. There's a lot of pressure to, put up numbers and compete against the guy sitting next to you on the bus. But when you have a little piece of paper in your back pocket that that the things you're learning along the way in professional athletics, it'll serve you in the workforce no matter what you're doing. So, it kills two birds with one stone.
For sure. So I have different, coaches, players coming on here talking about their story, talking about their unique grind, to get to the big leagues, to get to where they're at, to achieve all those experiences and stuff. And your story is extremely unique. You said you didn't get a chance to be drafted until the Reds came knocking your senior year of college, right? Did you have did you have an incredible arm then? Like, did you think about pitching before you were asked to kind of transition there? Maybe touch on that.
Yeah, I didn't have the vision, but my dad did, and that kind of went for the family. He didn't want us to get overused at a young age, whether it was coming out of Little League, bigger field for the first time, high school situation where you kind of trying to play both ends. We're seeing probably the greatest player in the world in Ohtani right now, getting a chance to really do it. But even that, he's coming off of a Tommy John. So I would say my father had the great vision where he said, you know what, let the infield role go as long as it can. And if it doesn't work out, it did for your older brother, and it didn't for me. And I had a kind of a fresh arm to kind of fall back on. And so to answer your question shortly, I did. I had a big arm as a kid. It was, something where people weren't sure, if I was really the right age. My size kind of dictated that I was the age I was at, minor leagues and in Little League. But, I was throwing hard. It was a little scary. And, I probably didn't have the greatest command. And so, you don't want to hurt any kids because, at that age, you can scare someone away from the game. But, it was something that I was always aware of and understood I could rely on. But my first thought was, hey, I'm gonna supersede Barry Larkin in Cincinnati one day in Riverfront and be a shortstop the rest of my career, just like my brother did. But things change, and you got to adapt and move and find new paths. And for me, and fortunately, Jimmy Lett, my manager in Charleston, West Virginia, saw that big arm, saw the 25 years at the break that I was airmailing people and at first base, and they're like, hey, let's try this guy on the mound. And things really did kind of work out.
I love that. So that adaptability, having to adapt to certain things and overcome them is something that I highlight here on the show. Again, just trying to show the next generation, whether that's minor league, college, high school, middle school, whatever it is, like, dude, everybody's path's different. Like, you don't have to be a first rounder and a full ride dude to get to the big leagues. That's, man, if that's your dream, like I'm just trying to make sure that that's out there, that's known. So I wanted to touch on the adaptability. You're going to have to adapt when you're getting changed over, right? You're a position player, boom. Now you're in pro ball. Now you're on the mound, right? Yeah. How do you close that learning gap? So we're talking about, dude, they're getting rid of teams, they're getting rid of rounds, the portal, everything is just getting crazier as you move up the funnel. I mean, obviously it's a different time now, but like, how were you able to close that gap, having to change a position just like that?
Honestly, I felt like it was a blessing rather than a curse. I didn't have a lot of baggage in my mind about what it meant to pitch. It was, find a balance point, find some rhythm within it, and fire away and utilize that big arm. And so, I think in today's age of sports, I think there's so many outlets that you can find as much information as you want. For me, ignorance was bliss. And so I was really lucky in my first year out that my manager in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, was Frank Funk. Frank, being a former big league pitching coach with the Kansas City Royals, recognized I didn't have a lot of foundation to work off of, but liked the simplicity of a windup or out of the bullpen, out of the stretch, and just kind of kept things simple. The direction was good, the arm worked, and we didn't overload anything. Just kind of let me kind of learn what it meant to have an interaction with the hitter going from in the batter's box to the mound. And I probably relied on that all the way through my career, in that cat and mouse, knowing how hard it is to hit. You're not always facing the Ken Griffey or Chipper Jones. You're facing the Trevor Hoffmans and the Ian Millers of the world. You want to make your hay there, and you want to attack those situations. You want to, keep moving and forward and getting outs. And so, I think that adaptability came from keeping it simple, finding out what works. A lot of veterans, when I was coming up, always talked about finding a routine, trust the routine. You can always tweak it as you go, but really learn yourself. And so I was fortunate to, again, have great people around me. Things kind of lined up, but there's no substitute for hard work. And it's easy to throw that out there and expect people to understand it, but I always felt like the good ones learn from their mistakes, the great ones learn from other people's mistakes. And so you always got to be observant. You always got to see, okay, why didn't that work for so and so? Why is this working for me? And try and constantly learn on a daily basis. I mean, there's things that when you go to the field, even today, you're bound to see something you've never seen before. And you hear that cliche a lot too, and I swear it's spot on. Like, there are things that I'm still seeing, getting a chance to see Juan Soto last year in San Diego, the things he could do in the batter's box, and the balance and the power, and just things I've never seen a guy do before. And so that was remarkable. But just keeping it simple, finding direction was something I tried to do on the mound.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So the adaptability, the adjustability. I wanted to touch on the arm injury you had in '94, right? That kind of changed everything up. You touched on the power arm that you had. You were able to rely on that during the transition. So the strike in '94, man, you end up hurting your shoulder once or twice. I'm reading online, right? And then you have to kind of go back to the drawing board, right? So you're not able to throw fuzz, right? I guess I'm reading online. It goes from 95 to 90, and then under 90, and then you're ending at under 85. I talked to Jamie Moyer a little bit, right? That's how I got set up with you. And man, the way that he obsessed over his hard work, his routine, just his effort, right? His thought processes, the same stuff that you're kind of touching on, man. How were you able to adapt there, right? Obviously, I'm reading that the changeup was just mind blowing. You changed the technique and the grip there. But adaptability, man, what did that play into it there at that point in your career?
Yeah, self-inflicted, unfortunately. I was the idiot that chose to go out and do some things on a beach here in Del Mar that I live on now, and jacked up my arm pretty good. So it's kind of full circle and kind of weird how that works out. But was strike in Houston. We got the flight home. We're not playing the next day. It's August 11th in the middle of San Diego. You go to the beach, and some volleyball games were going on. That wasn't a very good, smart move. And firing the Nerf football around in about a foot of water and ocean, and that wasn't a smart move. And you're right. I came back, and thankfully we didn't come back and have a World Series. I know the rest of the country would have seen the Expos pull through and get it done. But for me, I wasn't going to be able to pick up a ball and move it. So it took a good 4 or 5 months to get strong enough to be able to throw a baseball. It subsequently ended up in a cleanup at the end of the '95 year. But the adaptability you talked about was the velocity was gone, and there was no real rhyme or reason at the time, but I kind of had an idea. I needed to figure out another weapon, because the high fastball was working, and I was able to see at the highest level how not just velocity, but control and the ability to put the ball where I wanted, how that worked. And so I just needed to figure out a way to have another pitch, an equalizer. And I was fortunate to have a teammate, Donnie Elliott, that came over from Atlanta that had a particular grip. And this is what we kind of talk about. If something works, doesn't work for you, talk to your teammates, talk to other pitchers if you're in that part of the world. If you're a hitter, find out a guy that looks kind of like you, and kind of take a little something away from their success if they're having it. You learn from others, iron sharpens iron type of thing. And for me, it was the changeup. The changeup kind of came out of nowhere. My high arm slot and the grip that he had at the time really worked. It evolved into something a little bit better with kind of a palm ball. But yeah, I kind of lucked out. I dodged a bullet. It became a pitch that, people talk about east and west, north and south. I was kind of got the third component of that box was front to back, and with an arm speed that kind of made it look like a fastball a lot of time. That was the fun part of throwing a good changeup from time to time, is the hitters couldn't really see it. So that was about adapting, and fortunately that worked out too.
Oh, that fires me up. So before I move on, pepper you with some more questions about your mindset, how you were able to kind of outwork your competition, get to where you're at. Would love to give a shout out to the sponsor of the stream today, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, the Student Visionaries of the Year. I'd like to give a little shout out to them. So the Student Visionaries of the Year is a leadership development program for exemplary high school students. Highly motivated leaders embark on a journey of professional growth, fostering professional skills such as entrepreneurship, marketing, and project management, all while working to raise as much as possible for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's mission. 7-week challenge to raise funds for the fight against blood cancer. Raising money right now. We'll have the link in the bio. I want to appreciate, the LLS, the Student Visionaries of the Year, for sponsoring this stream. Big time goal, big visions, big things coming up. Trevor, again, thank you for your time and being here, the opportunity to talk to you, pick your brain a little bit. So right back into it, man. So playing the game the right way, hard work, character, being a professional, going about it the right way. I go on to Wikipedia and I can read all the stats, right? I can prepare the notes. I can get ready. I scroll down to the bottom and there are designated sections on your pitching style, your work ethic, your character, and your legacy, which speaks, volumes, right? Anybody can get in there and write stuff on Wikipedia, but there are designated sections on there to your work ethic, your character, and the legacy that you left behind. Just touching on stuff like that. It's incredible to read about. And man, again, another huge shout out to Jamie Moyer. I just see the kind of the way that you're talking about how you go about the hard work, the similarities there, having to rely and adapt and change things around, right? In an ever growing game, ever evolving game. It's big time, man. So mentality, like being mentally strong. I came up through the Mariner system, DePoto, Andy McKay, they came in, Jack Zarenzik was there. He drafted me and then he left. These guys come in and they're mental skills gurus and they are great at what they do. And then we have mental skills coaches. And then I'm learning about, mindfulness and meditation, right? Throughout a long career, starting from the bottom, having to transition out into a new position, eventually making your way to the Hall of Fame. It's a long season, a long career, a lot of ups and downs, man. What kind of role did the mentality or thought process or like being mentally strong, what did that like play into your whole career? And did you actively practice it? Like, did you meditate and stuff?
So a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
Certainly, mental toughness is something that you're constantly always challenged with in professional sport. The toughness that needed to be displayed from a hitter standpoint is mind-boggling. You're a star if you're failing 7 out of 10 times, and how you come to grips with what you consider result-based positivity. You can't worry about the results. It's process. And so for me to make that change to pitching, I was all welcome for it. I'll go to the other side and succeed 7 out of 10 times, and I'll be okay if that's not good enough. But the mental toughness, there's many a time that you walk away from the yard just going, I don't know if I can do this, man. I don't know if I'm cut out for this. It beats on you, regardless of who you are. Everyone goes through it. And so, Alan Trammell always said, you got two options. You can stick it out and stay, or you can go home. And, nobody's going to feel bad for you. Nobody's going to throw you a pity party. And I know I hate cliches, but it's kind of as simple as that. You have to figure out ways to, overcome what your mind's telling you. If you're constantly feeding it negative stuff, then negative things usually come out of it. And so if you can kind of stop the flow of what's not healthy for you to consume and think about. You have to find a way to get out of there. So that might be a get away from the yard. It might be a meditation. It might be breath. It might be just go look at a beach. It might be just look at the stars at night after a game when you're by yourself somewhere in the cathedrals that we got to play. And try and find some place to get grounded and go, hey, I'm good enough to be here. It got me here, whatever level that is. I love doing this. You know, it hurts at times, but I really want to pursue this. And we've gotten so much more knowledge with, you know, mental health and when people are kind of in trouble with, you know, the negativity of things that they're doing. And so my thing I would say, and I probably didn't realize at the time, but your teammates are a great source of support. And, you know, you're kind of going through the same thing together. And so lean on the people that are around you. Don't be afraid to go, I'm scared. You know, I'm afraid of failure. You know, the next one will be, I'm afraid of success. I mean, it's a big gamut there that you're going to have to work through, but don't be afraid to verbalize your fears and just open up your soul a little bit to your teammates, your coaches, and obviously lean on them to try and help you get through that sort of thing. But I was lucky, again, to have an older brother, 10 years older than me, that touched the big leagues when I was 11 and really got to see what it took to, you know, make it and put a dream in front of you and make it happen. I had great parents that worked really hard providing for our family. And so, and an older brother that was a basketball coach that really didn't understand no for an answer. You know, it was the word can't wasn't a part of the vocabulary on his basketball court. And so I had such great mentors around me growing up that I just figured I had enough tools to make this thing work. And then when you start to sail in your own ship, now you're kind of in charge of what you do. And so I was lucky, honestly, when I got to Florida after the expansion draft coming out of the red system, that Harvey Dorfman was on staff, and Harvey was kind of the guru as far as the mental game. The Mental Game of Baseball is his book, and
his book, yeah,
it's very black and white, and it's pretty simple as far as, again, feeding the animal positive thoughts. And you know, he reinforced a lot of the things that I did as far as pregame workouts. And you know, Jamie and I were kind of cut from the same club. We didn't possess this, you know, amazing arsenal. We had to work a little harder than the others. And what that extra work did is it provided a little bit of an edge. I think we felt every time we stepped on the field. It's like, you know what, dude, I know you didn't work harder than me today, and we're going to go to war. And whatever happens, but I'm not going to get cheated. And you know, I'm not going to quit on you. And we're going to get an opportunity to compete. And so I think that was the hard work that I talk about. It's not necessarily going to translate into a 350 average. It might not translate into 1.5 ERA, homers, RBIs, all that stuff, but it will provide an edge. And I think any athlete is always looking for the right edge, an edge that's honest. It's an edge that I'm doing it the right way. It's something that I don't want shortcuts, you know? So I get emotional because I get stuck in these windows about what it was like to play 15 years ago, and it's no longer part of my world, but it certainly moves me.
for sure. Has that been not to like, you know, ask you questions about that? You're in the front office now, right? So if you have ties, if you're a special assistant to the GM, how does that play into it? You go down to the field, you're watching BP, man. Are you just getting flashbacks right then and there? Just, you know, the grind, falling back in love with like you miss it. It's tough for me to come to grips with it. I stepped out of the game for 2 years and it just sucked me back in. Here I am, you know, talking to the TV right now, you know, a Hall of Famer, no less, but like how does that transition there?
Well, honestly, the machine keeps moving along. And so it waits for no one. And when you retire, you kind of end that part of your athletic life. And I was very fortunate, as you mentioned, to have an opportunity to come back to the Padres and be a part of, you know, some decision making and player development to see what the business side looked like. A lot of guys don't get that opportunity to still get the juice from the game. And it's hard. It's really hard to walk away and having given so much of your youth and your profession, your adult life, and then it's done. And you're like, whoa, I didn't sign up for this abrupt ending. I got a lot more to give. I want to, I like the camaraderie. I like being in the clubhouse. I like putting on a uniform at 40 years old and be a kid, and all that kind of goes away. So it's not easy for a lot of guys when they get to hang them up. And so, again, it goes back to, again, I'm one of the lucky ones, and it's great to live in town, the organization I spent most of my career with, and have a place and have a part, and always want to, I think the biggest thing is it's about the player. It's always been about the player, and now it's about today's player. And so you never want to get into a preaching mode, like, oh, when I did this and when I tried to do this and when I was like this. Like, kids don't want to hear about that, okay? And we can learn from each other. And I think when it's an opportunity to share, these were some of my potholes I stepped in, maybe it's enlightenment or it's an education that they can use in their career to better them and move them forward a little quicker than they would have to try and find it on their own. So I get a kick out of that opportunity to teach and really be around the next generation of player, because things change in a fast way. I mean, I could close my eyes and I could make a pitch. I could close my eyes and go, okay, where did my body feel like it was at? And that's why that pitch ended up where it did. Today's player, they've learned through everything through video, and it's no fault of their own. It's just they've seen themselves on video 10,000 times more hours than I ever did throughout my whole career. And so that's a way of learning. And that's why we're seeing so much of, the TrackMans, the Rapsodos, because that's their ability to learn. They might not have the best of feel at times. And now if you can marry the two, you have an amazing opportunity to teach and learn. But, the younger generation today has learned a new way to play the game. And so it's up to us old goats to kind of figure out a way to talk to them.
I love it. That makes a ton of sense. You were talking a little bit, you touched on how you and Jamie maybe prepared a little bit, how you guys had, similar, nuances, strategies, preparation and stuff. You also earlier, in this recording, man, you touched on routine, having a routine, the importance of a routine. I'm talking, I work with, I spend time with, I preach to younger players and kids that aren't maybe in college yet, playing college baseball, or in pro ball yet, grinding through the minor leagues. Like, they don't necessarily have a routine yet. Man, if different positions, different players, different routines, different needs, different times of the day, man. Let's say it's July, August, whatever it is, April, man, and you're probably going to be hot tonight, playing the crosstown rivals, man. It's you're probably going to be in there. It's going to be a close game. What does the routine look like? Leading up into game time. Were you like a pre-game workout dude? Like, walk me through that if you could.
Just the fact that you said 3 different months put me in a different mindset in August, put me in a different mindset in July, and a different mindset in April. Absolutely went through the gamut. So it's crazy how certain things trigger certain emotions and feelings. But, I don't want to get too deep in the routine, because it was something that I think everyone's going to figure out. I would say that the biggest component that a player out there needs to understand is time management. And I think if they understand where they're at in a particular moment, if they're getting ready to play a game, if they just finished a game, start thinking about what I'm going to do in the next 24 hours, what I'm going to be expected to do in the next 48 hours, and so on and so forth. All the way out to a 6-month window, all the way out to next year, or look back at next year and go, we just got bumped from the postseason yesterday. It's going to take me 365 days to get back to the exact same spot in a year. And that's scary. And so how do you rise back up, reinvent yourself, stay motivated? It's by having a routine. And for me, it was drill down to the specifics of what I wasn't allowing myself to ever not do. And that's kind of running, like a prisoner of it. There's some things that are rituals. There's some things that are superstitions, but they captivate us. They get us. That's the hook. And so some of it's good. Some of it's maybe not so great and helpful, but that's what you learn over time, is your particular routine that you can rely on, that's going to get you out of ruts. It's going to keep the wind in your sails when you're rolling, and you tweak it along the way. It's different when you're 25 in April and August. It's different when you're 35 in April and August. And let's take into account what part of the country you're in, or, whatever's going on with your family. Your kids might not have slept like there's so many variables that a player out there today will go through in time, and it's exciting to think about what the canvas looks like. But you think of a blank canvas daily, and then you have a career canvas, and you do your painting. And I know I'm kind of getting a little wigged out, a little off, but time management, I would say that's the biggest thing. I listened to a young man in our system yesterday talk about a playoff opportunity, whether he was going to get a chance to pitch in a 3-game series or not. And there was so much anxiety that built up in 2 days because he didn't know if he was going to get an opportunity to take the ball in that series or the next series or never get a chance. And so once there was some clarity, it freed him up to not have the anxiety, the energy that he was ready to put forth into his opportunity to take the baseball. And once he said that, it just became abundantly clear that every player out there needs to know what is going to be expected of me tomorrow and what I need to do to prepare to get to that point.
Ooh, that's fantastic right there. I wanted to ask you one more question kind of about how you kept your arm in the shape that you had it in. Before I get into maybe some recruiting, some perfect game type stuff, your involvement there, man. Obviously we touched on in '94, the injury that you had, having to overcome that, adapt, the way you threw certain pitches, how you attack certain hitter, whatever it was. But man, do you have any advice, any tips, throwing program type ideas? Are you an advocate for long tossing? Like maybe somebody that is going into the Division I level 2-3, going into pro ball, maybe, somebody that wants to strengthen their arm, like what would you say to do?
Think of your arm as a bank account. Every time you pick up a baseball and you chuck it, whether super hard, not so hard, whatever, that's a withdrawal. And so you need to put deposits back in your arm and make sure that you're listening to it. When it's sore, give it some rest. And so that's kind of a macro level type of thing. But for me, I couldn't have had the career I had without 2 guys, Todd Hutchison and Roger Kaplinger. They're amazing trainers. Larry Starr before that in Florida, but I was so young I didn't need a lot of stuff. But those 2 gentlemen kept my tail on the field. And they did it in a way where we worked together. I didn't go like a dragster where you're sitting at the start line and you just hammer it down. You're trying to go 300 miles an hour in 2 seconds. It was, I'm going to prep the engine. I'm going to get the body hot. I'm going to figure out what it feels like today with that 15, 20-minute run. And I was a reliever. I ran every day like a starter. But what it did is it flushed all the crap out of the body, got it moving, got it out of the way, got another sense of what my arm felt like, because it felt like crap 15 minutes ago. It's not so bad now. Now I'm going to go in and report to my trainers, and we're going to go through some soft tissue. We're going to go through maybe a little bit more modality, a stem or whatever that's going to help get us to the finish line of that day at 10 o'clock when need to be. So it's paying attention to what your arm's telling you. Certainly arm exercise is important, and we've gotten way more sophisticated with some driveline stuff, with wetted balls, the mechanics of how your body moves, super important. Stay symmetrical so that you're not overloading one side by just throwing. But again, it's knowing yourself. It's a bank account, knowing when you're taking too many deposits out and you need to put some withdrawals back in that account, man. It's you only got one show at this. Every throw matters, no matter what it is, and take care of that. Take care of that wing.
Oof, some unbelievable knowledge shared right there from Hall of Famer Trevor Hoffman. Trevor, I appreciate you. So let me just ask you a couple questions about the perfect game involvement, transitioning, kind of, getting acclimated with them, getting involved with them, maybe the showcase and tournament space. It's kind of a different vibe nowadays, right? With technology, man, you can get scouted, you can get recruited online. Justin Topa just got traded from the Mariners. What was it, over to the Twins, I think today, in the Polanco or yesterday, whatever it was. He was out of baseball. LIU dude was out of baseball and put up his Rapsodo and his numbers and, his driveline stuff up on Twitter and stuff. And man, he's closing games for the Mariners. You know what I mean? He's getting action out of the bullpen and in high leverage situations. It's crazy, man. How does everything work with perfect game, man? What are they doing? Maybe for somebody that hasn't experienced it. I played in the World Wood Bat, the perfect game, like World Wood Bat in Jupiter, Florida. It's the only thing I've ever experienced with perfect game, man. So what are you guys doing, and how are you getting involved in the game today?
Fantastic stuff. I'll start at the conversation we just had with the trade that went down, and the young man out of Long Island, making that
Topa.
move. It's the Major League Baseball scout's job to find you, and whatever he took the initiative to send, video and the numbers, and this is what I'm doing, and someone took a look, and it's MLB's job to find you, and they will. Perfect Game's job is to give you a platform, and they do. I'm not a huge fan of one sport all year round, and we don't condone that. We don't support that. We're not pushing that. We give a platform for a group of kids that might not otherwise have an opportunity to be seen. And so if you're in conversation with some other colleges or other schools out there that you might be interested in going, send a note to that recruiting coordinator going, hey, I'm going to show up at this tournament on these dates. And now it's just not happenstance if he happens to walk by field 6 on the back of Peoria, Arizona, and happen to see an at-bat that you might have not had 10 minutes ago. So it separates you. The Jupiter tournament is a signature event for us. It's unlike any other. It's the opportunity to see the best of the best on the mound against the best of the best in the batter's box, and a great matchups throughout. It's golf cart heaven. Yeah. Everybody in Major League Baseball has got 10 to 15 guys that are part of the player development system and love to go see the games and love to see the competition. And PG just does a great job of providing that platform. Some of the travel teams can get a little crazy. Everyone has a different motto, a mission statement, agenda. We're just trying to provide the best opportunity for a kid from anywhere in the country to have an opportunity to play against another kid and be able to rate yourself and compare yourself and then expose yourself to colleges and pro baseball.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. I appreciate everybody tuning in. See some people in the chat. We got T-Bones, player I grew up with. Appreciate you tuning in. So, Trevor, man, in today's game, being able to get your name out, with Twitter, with Instagram, anything like that, having viral videos and stuff, getting scouted, man, how would you say is the best way to go about it? Carrying yourself, being able to separate yourself at these scouting tournaments or these showcases, like how would you go about like separating yourself from the pack, recruiting wise?
Oof, that's a tough one because I'm a guy that's not on social media. I don't have Twitter. I don't really have Instagram. I don't have Instagram. I have Facebook. Somebody does a Twitter account for me, the Padres.
So, like, if somebody shows up to watch you pitch or watch you play, like, what are you going to do that's going to be like, wow, we got to give Trevor a shot here?
I'm gonna say this, and whether it's doable, not doable, I go to a lot of tournaments, and I see the kids, and I walk by, and all I'll see is this: their face is buried in a device. Okay, I understand there's time to, that might be the only time to really check out and get ready for the next game or whatever. But if you have that many amazing decision makers around, take the time to know who's on the other side of the fence. You're in the dugout. Figure out who's watching what. And don't be afraid to just walk up and introduce yourself. Put a little eye contact on somebody. Put a firm grip in someone's hand. Mookie Betts' hand strength is off the charts, and it didn't make sense to me until I figured out he bowled his whole life, and his hand strength kind of came from that sort of thing. So what an amazing opportunity any young athlete has to separate themselves, have a little eye contact, have a little conversation with someone that, hey, just walk up to them and go, hey, my name's so-and-so. Are you here to watch today's game? Might end up being Logan White, our guru scout that we have in the San Diego Padres system that's signed a bazillion players. You never know who you're going to talk to. You never know who's watching if you want to take it to that next level. Whether you're slapdicking down the line with your teammates when you're 10 minutes from taking the field, people are watching how you prep, how you prepare for are you watching the pitcher on the other side of the diamond getting ready for a game? Like, you're always being evaluated. You're always being compared to another teammate, another guy on the other field. So never assume that it's just a baseball game where no one's paying attention.
I love it. So obviously things have transitioned from back when I was playing, back when you were playing. Before I hit you with the last question of the night, man, how did you get recruited? How did you get scouted? Like, what was that process like? Was there a certain game? Was there a certain instance that you can look back to where you're like, oh man, that probably sealed my fate?
I had a really amazing coach in junior college, Scott Pickler. He's still there. He coaches for Yarmouth Dennis in the Cape Cod League still today. He's the winningest coach in Cape Cod League history. He went to bat for me. He family friend, but I had to prove to him that I was going to be a guy, and I was going to work hard for him, and I was going to be accountable, and I was going to be someone he could rely on. And he put a good word in for me with Coach Kendall at the University of Arizona, and on a word, I got an opportunity to go play at U of A. And so that kind of got the ball rolling. And that same opportunity I had with Coach Kendall turned into, a scouting report from Kevin Towers that I didn't go with him, but Jeff Barton was the scout that signed me with the Reds. And it was similar where Coach Kendall had those kind of conversations. So it kind of goes back to the whole, someone's watching you. Someone's paying attention to what you're doing on the field. A lot of scouts out there are figuring out what you're doing on Friday and Saturday night. Are you up to no good? Are you just being a kid? There's a fine line there. But what are you doing to better yourself? What are you doing to give yourself the best opportunity?
Oof, that fires me up right there. Last question I have for you, Trevor. Thank you again so much for your time. This is the 9-Hole Podcast. I made it to the big leagues in the 9-hole. I'm just trying to give inspiration, ideas, insight to the next generation of 9-hole hitters like I was, man, like a whole bunch of underdogs have done. What does the 9-hole mean to you? So, man, like you're thinking about a 9-hole hitter, maybe you're facing a lineup. Like, what kind of qualities does a 9-hole hitter have in your mind?
I got two analogies. First one was my older brother told me, never leave yourself with the question, what if? What if I would have gotten my sleep last night? What if I'd have gotten a good meal in my body? What if I wouldn't have not taken BP? Just that opportunity to answer that question in the mirror and go, what if? Don't ever leave yourself with that question. And the second one is prepare and do everything as the most selfish individual you can be. Whatever it is you have to do to get ready for that ball game, you be the most selfish person in the world. And when that game starts and you're around your teammates even a little bit before, you be selfless and you pour into them and you give the opportunity for your team collectively as a unit is much stronger than one person, because that selfish attitude will work against you if you try and compete individually, even though it's an individual game played by a team. You prepare selfishly and you give unselfish to your teammates.
Oof. Couldn't have said it any better right there, Trevor. I love that. I appreciate you. That's all I got. Oh, man. Thank you for your time.
It, man.
Is there anything you'd like to plug? Anything you'd like to shout out, man? You're looking forward to this year?
No, man, I'm just happy to be a part of everything here. This was a great time getting to chat with you. You're doing an awesome job. Shout out to the people sponsoring your show. I think that's fantastic. High school kids getting after it and their certain demeanors and their disciplines. Good luck to y'all. This was a good time. I appreciate it.
I love it. Thank you for everybody tuning in. Again, thanks. Big shout out to our sponsor today, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society and the Student Visionaries of the Year. Whether you're watching on No Filter Network, on YouTube, or if you're listening in on Apple Podcasts, tell me what you think. Give me a follow, drop a like. Appreciate you guys. Trevor, thank you again so much for your time. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you, Ian. Appreciate you.
All right. Take care, guys.